But now we're going to move on to my top 10 hottest takes for the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series season. For the most part, these takes are based on reality of it happening. I mean, there's a couple outlandish ones, but it's hot takes. You got to be a little bold when you're making these. So let's start with maybe my least spiciest, and let's go to my spiciest, and then I'll save my championship 4 and my championship prediction for the end. My first hot take is Kyle Larson will win multiple crown jewel races this year. The crown jewels I'm counting this year are the Daytona 500, the Coca-Cola 600, the Southern 500, and or the Brickyard 400. Kyle Larson has won each of those races in the past outside of the Daytona 500, and if he wins the Daytona 500 this year, I think he could easily sweep all 4 crown jewels. He's usually the best car in the field at all of those tracks outside of Daytona, and so I wouldn't put it past him to at least win 2 of them this year. We'll keep it on the Kyle Larson predictions, as I think he will podium at the Indianapolis 500. He was running near the top 5 before he got the speeding penalty. I think this year, in year 2, with more experience behind that kind of car, he could easily contend for the win, if not get a top 3 finish. My third hot take, I kind of mentioned this in my Kyle Busch video early on in the offseason. I think Kyle Busch will win multiple races this year. He is too talented. He's got too much left in the tank. RCR isn't completely awful when he's driving, and he was running in contention for good finishes before overstepping most of the time. I think this year Kyle Busch refines some of that and gets back to victory lane. And I think it happens more than once this year. My next take is kind of an obvious one if you know how the trends of NASCAR go. I think Connor Zilisch will make multiple Cup starts this year outside of COTA. Trackhouse has the Red Bull sponsorship now, and if Zilisch runs really well at COTA, I think he'll easily earn himself more starts, probably at road courses, maybe a couple short tracks. It wouldn't surprise me if we see him kind of get the SVG style schedule where he gets more at super speedways, road courses, short tracks, things where he's kind of in more contention to win than just something like a random Kansas race or something. Going away from the Chevys now, I'm going to predict that Todd Gilliland will be the only bright spot at Front Row Motorsports this year. I think Noah Gragson and Zane Smith are just too inexperienced right now to really make a difference. I mean, this team is still trying to find itself as a Tier 1 Ford team, but Todd Gilliland continues to show improvement every single year. I predicted him to make the playoffs earlier in the week. I think that Todd Gilliland is going to be the one shining bright spot in what we might call a struggling front row. In what we might call a struggling front row team this year. I think Legacy Motor Club will contend for the playoffs. And what do I mean by that? I think that they will finish in the top 20 in points. At least one car. I'm not going to say both cars. It's really hard to get both cars in the top 20 when the field is that tight. But I think Eric Jones or John Hunter Nemechek can have a season where they're top 20 in points this year. And then 2026, I think one of them will make the playoffs. I think Jimmy Johnson has that team pointed in the right direction. Everything on paper says this team should improve this year. Speaking of Jimmy Johnson, let's move over to the driver of the 48 in Alex Bowman. I think Alex Bowman this year will have a really good year. He had an amazing playoffs, and if you take out the DQ from the Charlotte Roval, Alex Bowman could have been a championship 4 contender. And I think he carries that momentum into 2025. I think Alex Bowman will have more wins this year than Christopher Bell. Most people think Christopher Bell is the best driver at JGR right now, and I think Alex Bowman will outdo Bell in the win column. My final hot take this year, and maybe my hottest one yet, I think Denny Hamlin goes winless this year. Denny Hamlin hasn't won since Dover in the spring. That was race 11 of 36. He also has a ton of distractions right now between primarily the lawsuit, but he also has his own race team. He has his own podcast. He's got a new baby on the way. There's just so much that's going on in his life. Plus, he has the new crew chief. He's still searching for sponsors for the year. I just think there's too much chaos going on for Denny Hamlin to find victory lane this year. I know he says he likes the chaos, that he thrives in it. This might be too much chaos, though, even for Denny Hamlin to overcome. My last 2 hot takes are going to be championship related. Let's start with my championship 4. I said I was high on Alex Bowman this year, and I'm going to keep at it. Alex Bowman makes the championship 4 this year, along with Kyle Larson, Ryan Blaney, and Chase Elliott. If anyone has a chance to stop Team Penske's reign this year, I think it's Hendrick Motorsports. They are the class of the field at most racetracks, and I think that'll bode well for them to get into the championship 4. Now, I think Ryan Blaney will play spoiler. I think he's probably the second best driver right now in the field. I know Tyler Reddick is probably who most people would have as second best right now, just talent-wise. I just think Ryan Blaney is too consistent that he'll get back to his third straight championship 4. And I think he plays spoiler to all these Hendrick cars. I think Ryan Blaney will be your 2025 NASCAR Cup Series champion. I said it before, 35 out of 36 weeks, Hendrick Motorsports is the equipment you want. Race 36, you want Team Penske's equipment. And if Ryan Blaney's the lone Penske car in that field, look out. He may be the best car that day. Did you like that video? Well, make sure to check out the full podcast linked in the description below. In the meantime, subscribe so you never miss an episode of Mondays with Morgan.